What's up, my friends? Welcome back to my channel, Mindful Money Management. Over the past 2 weeks, there have been widespread justifiable concern as to the integrity, reliability, stability, and security of the US banking system. Both consumers and investors have expressed real concern whether or not the system is reliable. The question I keep asking myself is, how did we get here? How did we get to this place for the second time in 15 years where the US banking system, the integrity of the system is being called into question? There are those out there who would like you to believe that the answer to this question is so complex, it's beyond the understanding of us mere mortals. This is not true. The answer has to do with greed and fear. The greed of Wall Street to do whatever it wants, and the fear by the federal government or the Fed and the Treasury of the system collapsing. I read an article a few days ago entitled the 9 things Warren Buffett said about banking. There was a quote there. It states, and I'm paraphrasing here, if someone on Wall Street decided to walk the higher moral ground, he or she will not encounter a great deal of traffic, indicating that morality and ethics does not exist on Wall Street. Before I answer the question as to how we got here, I need to explain two things. The first is capitalism. Capitalism is great. It works fantastic, but it must be allowed to do what it does best. That is, it weeds out the weak, it gets rid of those who make bad bets, and it rewards those who make competent, good bets. The federal government don't have to step in every single time to fix what is wrong with our economy. This was wrong for the government to do so. There is this famous investor. He said, there have never been a better time to be in finance. If we make good bets, we get to keep the profits. If we make bad bets, the government comes in and bails us out. It's the craziest thing I have ever seen. This is unbelievable. To clearly understand why is it we are here, we need to go all the way back to 2008. When the housing market collapsed, the financial sector froze. The banks weren't lending money to each other. The banks weren't lending money to small businesses, and they most certainly weren't lending money to individuals. In an effort to unfreeze this system, the Federal Reserve decided to pump money into the system. They did this by creating the TARP program, which purchased all the bad investments banks and other financial institutions had on their books. The Fed went a step further by introducing something called quantitative easing. It's just a couple fancy words to say we will print money from now until infinity. They did this twice. Believing that this was insufficient, the Fed decided to lower interest rate to almost zero. All this was done with the belief that the banking sector will invest the money through loans to small companies, medium-sized companies, who in turn would build factories, would buy machineries, would invest in ideas, and would invest in people, thus creating employment and stimulating an economic growth. This belief by the Fed was pure, but it was naive because the Fed neglected to consider that people will always act in their own self interest. They will protect themselves first. With so much money flying around, low interest rate, the banks and other financial institutions had to do something with this money. Banks being banks, they decided to buy their stock back, which led to the stock prices increasing. They then decided to use the rest of the money to give themselves large bonuses. Realizing there is an issue, the then Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke decided he needed to introduce something called quantitative tightening. Another couple of fancy word for saying we're going to stop printing money, we're going to stop giving the banks money, we're going to stop pumping money into the system. The stock market didn't like this and it plummeted. Ben Bernanke then reversed course and said he will not introduce quantitative tightening. This was a poor decision by the Fed because it tells the market that the Fed will do whatever is necessary to protect it. In doing this, the Fed added another mandate to its already packed mandate, which is to keep unemployment low and keep inflation at 2% or below. For the past 15 years, there have never been such a large transfer of wealth from the bottom 90% to the top 10%. And the federal government was complicit in ensuring this transfer occurred. Why did this happen? Because most people in the federal government and some economics believe in something called trickle-down economics. They think if you give the money to the top 10% or the top 1% of the population, they will invest it, thus creating jobs for the bottom 90%. But again, this is a naive way of thinking. It does not consider the selfish nature of humanity. We always put ourselves first at great cost to others. Now it's 2020 and the pandemic is here. The current Fed chairman, Mr. Jerome Powell, decided to continue quantitative easing, citing the pandemic as a reason to do so. You remember that thing about capitalism that I told you about? How if we don't let it do what it's supposed to do, it come back to bite us in the butt? Well, that's what this is. Because the Federal Reserve failed to act in a prudent manner 10 years ago, we now find ourselves in a place where prices are high, there's too much money in the system, and unemployment is low. The Federal Reserve now have to increase interest rate at an unprecedented rate in order to deal with the excess within the economy. Doing this will obviously result in shock within the system. This is the reason why Valley Bank failed. This is the reason why First Republic received $30 billion in bailout from other financial institutions. And this is the reason why everyone is concerned about the reliability, the integrity, the dependability, and the security of the US banking system. You need to understand that bankers all do the same thing. Whatever it is that brought down Silicon Valley Bank, I can assure you that the entire industry is doing the exact same thing. If the federal government, specifically the Fed, were to continue to raise interest rate by 50 basis points, the banking sector in the United States will collapse. I can guarantee you this because all of them have the same assets on their books that they have not written down to market value. They still have it at the original value at which they bought it. This is a problem. You're probably asking yourself, well, as consumers, what can we do to address it? Unfortunately, there isn't much we can do. We can vote, we can put different people in Washington, but at the end of the day, all of them will do whatever is necessary to protect themselves, leaving us in the rain without any umbrella to shelter us. We, for lack of a better explanation, we are on our own. We have to protect ourselves by spending and saving our money wisely. Yeah. I think that's it for this one. If you guys have any questions, suggestions, comments, or anything I've said, please leave them in the comment section below. My name is Philip. This is Mindful Money Management. Until the next time, spend wisely, my friends.